Now, it is the fourth and final day of winter testing in Barcelona. It's just over 2 weeks now until the first race in Australia, Melbourne, gets underway. Let's join our reporter Rachel Brooks, who's at the Circuit de Catalunya.
Welcome to the pit lane here this morning, the final day of the final test. Just 8 hours of running now for these teams to get the cars ready for that first race in Australia. Some with a lot more to do than others. A lot of the teams will tell you can't get enough winter testing. 8 days is all they've got, and for the likes of McLaren, definitely not enough. Stoffel Vandoorne only got 48 laps yesterday. They had an electrical issue that stopped him on track twice just after leaving the pits here. And as of last night, they still didn't know what the issue was and couldn't identify it, which is not good news for the team. They've had to change the power unit more times than we probably know. The team won't tell us exactly how many times it is now. They've stopped releasing that kind of information. So it's been a really, really tough week again for McLaren. They will start this season way behind where they want to be. They say it's not as bad as 2015 yet. In that season, they finished 9th out of 10 teams on the grid. Elsewhere, though, Ferrari excited everybody just before lunch yesterday, putting in a quick time that Mercedes then tried to respond to with Lewis Hamilton. But it has to be said, both drivers backed off in the final part of the track, the final sector of this track here. So we don't really know what sort of times they can do. They may well try that again this morning and do some performance runs to see just who is where, but a lot of them hiding all the good stuff and keeping it to Australia. There is one thing of interest, though. As the Toro Rosso goes past me, that's got a Renault engine in it. The Renault team obviously have a Renault engine and the Red Bull team have a Renault engine, and they've all had issues with it. We were told yesterday that the teams have been told they'll get a new specification engine for Australia, but there are some niggles in that Renault engine, and that could affect Red Bull this season. They haven't put in a really quick qualifying simulation or performance run yet. We're waiting to see what they have. The long run yesterday wasn't quite as good as Mercedes and Ferrari, and both drivers have said they may not start the season really up there and up close with Mercedes and Ferrari, but they think they will get there fairly quickly. But at the moment, it is Ferrari and Mercedes battling it out for the headlines here. Both teams are saying the other one looks ahead. So we'll wait and see what today brings here in Barcelona. We'll update you throughout the day, and we'll be speaking to the drivers as well before they all head off for that first race in Australia.
Looks exhausting, that, doesn't it? Now it is the fourth and final day of winter testing in Barcelona, and just a fortnight until the season starts in Australia. We're now seeing just how fast these cars are going to be this season, with some lap times 4 seconds quicker than last year. Let's join our reporter Rachel Brooks for the latest. Rachel.
Well, welcome to a busy paddock this lunchtime. The fans come here to testing and get to walk around as well. So they bump into some of the drivers during the lunch break here in Barcelona. But it should be said that Ferrari have topped the timesheets again this morning. Kimi Räikkönen has broken through that 119 barrier with a 118.634 on the super soft tyre, so not on the quickest tyre. And we were out on track at the time, and the Ferrari does look very quick. We saw Valtteri Bottas also trying to put a lap in, but he didn't get anywhere near that time today. His best time so far of the day has been a 119.845. So Ferrari definitely on top here. Max Verstappen went out in the Red Bull also on those super soft tyres and tried to match Kimi Räikkönen. He came in with a 119.4, but the running was interrupted because yet again we've got more problems for McLaren. Fernando Alonso stopped on track today. It's the second time today that the McLaren has stopped on track, and they're telling us it's the same intermittent electrical shutdown that Stoffel Vandoorne suffered from yesterday. That's 4 stoppages in 2 days for McLaren Honda, on the 2 days where they really wanted to try and catch up with the rest of the field. It's been another bad day for them. They're not doing any media today, so they won't speak to anyone. And I imagine that's probably a blessing as far as Fernando Alonso is concerned right now, because it's been a very difficult couple of weeks, and they're about to head into a season in Australia where at the moment they are a long way behind the rest of the field in terms of mileage on track. Elsewhere, Valtteri Bottas, I should say the Mercedes, was going to go out for a quick run before lunch. We had that stoppage from Alonso. We also had another stoppage from Romain Grosjean just before the lunch break. That was heading towards turn 10. He stopped out on track. And so that put a paid to a lot of the performance runs that were going to happen in the closing minutes of that morning session. And just finally, Carlos Sainz is up on third on the timesheets, on the ultra soft, on the quickest tyre in the Toro Rosso, and he put in a 119.837. But when he came back into the pit lane, we were all looking out of the window and we weren't sure he was going to make it to his pit box. We think maybe they were running very light on fuel in that run, and that's why the mechanics were seen dashing down to try and collect him. He did make it back to the pit box, but possibly that Toro Rosso has shown some speed this morning. It has been quickest in the speed trap. It broke 300 kilometres an hour today in the speed trap, which means it is pretty quick. And if you think that's the Red Bull Junior team, if the Toro Rosso is fast, the Red Bull will be faster. It's going to be a fascinating afternoon here in Barcelona. We'll keep you updated throughout the day.
OK, let's get the latest from the final day of Formula One testing in Barcelona, where we've seen some blistering times. Some of the laps today 4 seconds faster than what we saw last season. It was a good morning as well, another one for Ferrari and Kimi Raikkonen, who set the fastest time on super soft tyres. Interesting as well, Red Bull's Max Verstappen went second quickest and had held an early lead. Not a good day for Fernando Alonso in his McLaren. Broke down twice on track, and that's 4 stoppages in 2 days. The team says it was down to an intermittent electrical shutdown. Romain Grosjean has put his Haas car, as you can say, in the gravel just after setting his fastest lap of the day. Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, a second slower than the leaders. Lewis Hamilton out later this afternoon. Let's get the latest from the final day of Formula One testing in Barcelona, where we've seen some blistering times, and some of the laps today 4 seconds faster than what we saw last season. It was a good morning for Ferrari and Kimi Raikkonen, who set the fastest time on super soft tyres. Red Bull's Max Verstappen went second quickest and had held an early lead. Not a good day for Fernando Alonso in his McLaren, who broke down twice on track, and that's 4 stoppages in 2 days. Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes was a second slower than the leaders, and Lewis Hamilton will be out this afternoon. Romain Grosjean put his Haas car in the gravel just after setting his fastest lap of the day.
We had a sensor issue, so basically the car came back, made a default on the steering wheel and got back out.
We watched yesterday when Kevin was in the car, and then you today, and at turn 10 it was proving very tricky in that Haas. Not just for you today, it was for Kevin as well yesterday. What's going on in those corners that you two are struggling with?
I think it's clearly one of the areas we have identified and we can improve, very low speed corners. So that's going to be the key before Australia, trying to get the best of the car in those places. We've got some updates coming, and hopefully that's going to work well.
I'm pretty happy with it. You know, we still don't know where we are in performance-wise compared with the other ones, but I think all in all we did a good job. A lot of people promised us to be the second year harder than the first one. It wasn't easier, but I think again we came here prepared, or the team came here prepared, and we did what we said to everybody we will do. We will have a good second year, hopefully better than the first one, but by no means do we want to be worse than the first year.
Now, the final day of pre-season testing is well underway in Barcelona, with Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen going quickest so far. Been another frustrating day, though, for McLaren. And for more, let's head back to our reporter, Rachel Brooks, who's trackside.
Well, welcome back to trackside here in Barcelona. We're just by turn 5, where Romain Grosjean went off this morning into the gravel at one of 2 stoppages to his day. But we're out this afternoon. There's a really mixed programme going on here as the Ferrari goes past of Kimi Raikkonen, people trying all sorts of long runs and some performance runs. And I think that's Fernando Alonso. It is indeed Fernando Alonso in the McLaren coming round now. And he has got back out again, but they had another electrical shutdown earlier on today. 2 he's had now today, 2 for Stoffel van Dorn yesterday, and they're still trying to figure out what is going wrong with that car. They've done half the laps, less than half the laps of Mercedes during testing, and it's really not enough to be ready for that first race in Australia. Better news for Williams today. Lance Stroll's been getting the laps in ahead of his first ever Formula One race in a couple of weeks' time. Very quiet on the Red Bull front this afternoon, though. They put in that quick time with Max Verstappen earlier on today, second on the timesheets, in fact, but not a lot of running from them this afternoon. We'll keep an eye on their garage and see when he gets out and what kind of programme they're trying to do this afternoon. But as we stand here trackside at the moment, Ferrari and Mercedes both getting all their work done here in Barcelona, with just a short time left now of testing before they have to head off to Australia for the first race.
Well, can Ferrari provide a real challenge to Mercedes this season? Once again, they've outpaced the champions in testing with some laps 4 seconds faster than at the same stage last season. However, more misery, I'm afraid, for McLaren this week. Ferrari and Kimi Raikkonen set the fastest time in the morning on super soft tyres after completing 96 laps. An issue stopped the Finn's car on the track, though. And Lewis Hamilton set a personal best on ultra soft tyres today. Well, Jolyon Palmer, he's been moving up the timesheets in his Renault. Turbo issues, though, kept Red Bull in the garage after lunch, but Max Verstappen did re-emerge to get more laps in. Romain Grosjean, he was forced to abandon his Haas in the gravel twice, though. Very frustrating.
We had a sensor issue, so basically the car came back, made a default on the steering wheel and got back out.
We watched yesterday when Kevin was in the car and then you today, and at turn 10 it was proving very tricky in that Haas. Not just for you today, it was for Kevin as well yesterday. What's going on in those corners that you two are struggling with?
I think it's clearly one of the areas we have identified and we can improve, very low speed corners. So that's going to be the key before Australia, trying to get the best of the car in those places. We've got some updates coming and hopefully that's going to work well.
So David Braille.
And we're enjoying Rachel Brooks. Rachel.
Welcome back to the paddock here in Barcelona, and the paddock's reacting right now to the very sad news that John Surtees has passed away, the only man to win world titles on 2 and 4 wheels. I'm joined by David Croft now, and David, you've met him many times. What a lovely man, but what a legend, and that word is used, isn't it, so many times, but actually in racing history he is a legend. He was a legend.
That word is overused, I think, in society, full stop, but not for Sir John Surtees. And I can say for Sir John Surtees, because I had this conversation yesterday with somebody in the paddock who said, why has this man not been knighted? I don't understand why John Surtees wasn't knighted, why we can't say Sir John Surtees, because we should. He is the only man, as you said, Rachel, to have won on 2 wheels and 4. 7 titles in motorbikes altogether at 500cc and 350cc as well. And of course, 1964 Formula 1 world champion. We give accolades to so many of our sporting stars, rightly so. And I always think John Surtees deserved to be a Sir. Yes, he was honoured, he was a CBE. He worked tirelessly for the foundation that he set up after his son's tragic death as well. So for that and for the legacy that he left to British and world motorsport, I'm going to say Sir John Surtees, because he should have been.
You're not the only one, actually. That's a reaction from a lot of people. And you also set up that kart track as well in Buckden, Buckmore Park, which so many drivers have been to. And the young drivers in this paddock today, out on that track, learnt their trade.
Well, absolutely. You talk to some of our colleagues at Sky Sports F1 and Anthony Davidson, Johnny Herbert. They'll tell you about Buckmore Park. I've driven it myself many times as well. It's a fabulous track. But he was a fabulous man, and just a short drive away from Buckmore Park down at Goodwood. I remember a couple of years ago, Kimi Raikkonen and John Surtees coming together that weekend, 2 Ferrari world champions, swapping stories, swapping tales. And do you know what? We say often it takes a lot to make Kimi Raikkonen smile, but he was beaming and he was grinning from ear to ear by spending a weekend with John Surtees. Such was the respect and the admiration and the love that he had as a more current Ferrari world champion for the man that won in 1964.
Yes, he'll be very, very fondly remembered by a lot of people in this paddock. I know a lot of the drivers, when they get out of the cars and find out the news, will be very sad this afternoon. We'll be speaking to a few of them for their reaction to it and their memories of a legend of motor racing, as we found the sad news today that John Surtees has passed away at the age of 83.
You're enjoying former teams Ferrari, who made the headlines on track today, as we finally got a glimpse of the ultimate pace of the 2017 cars. Raikkonen became the first and only driver in the entire 8 days of testing to break through the 1-minute 19-second barrier. His 1:18.6 was almost half a second quicker than anyone else has managed.
It was quite positive, the car felt good straight away, and that's obviously always a good sign for all the hard work that the team has put in over the winter and last year for this car. But it's very early days for sure. We have things to learn and things to try still, and you kind of never have enough testing. But this is what we got, and we have to be quite pleased and positive with it, and see where we are in the first race.
Max Verstappen was the only driver to get within 1 second of Raikkonen's time on the final day of testing, but Red Bull did have issues with their engine's turbo, which cost them time on the track. Toro Rosso completed the most laps of any team today. Carlos Sainz posted an impressive time. He was third quickest, but 1.2 seconds off Raikkonen's pace. That's despite using quicker tyres. While McLaren's problems continued, Fernando Alonso completed the least laps after stopping on track twice with electrical problems. Sauber were the only team slower than McLaren. OK, let's get some golf.
Well, these are the fastest laps by each team during the 8 days of testing, and you can see McLaren were nearly 3 seconds off the pace, which was set by Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen. Lewis Hamilton described Ferrari's pace as spectacular and is expecting a close fight between Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull when the season starts.
They've been doing a fantastic job, and I think there's more to come from them. I think their pace here this week has really been spectacular, and we still, I think Red Bull are still there. They just haven't brought, I don't know if they've brought their upgrade package here this week, but usually they bring it to the first race. So I expect us to be having a real serious battle with both these teams.